Dave Reichert had a distinguished 33-year law enforcement career at the King County Sheriff's Office, starting as a beat cop and later becoming appointed and elected King County Sheriff, leading the 1,200-person organization for 8 years. He then worked as the lead investigator on the Green River serial killer case, where young women were murdered during the 1980s. And in 2004, he was honored with the National Sheriff's Association's Sheriff of the Year Award. In 2004, Reichert ran and won election to Washington State's 8th congressional district and would go on to win a total of 7 terms in Congress. Dave is undefeated at the ballot box. Reichert was honored to be just a handful of freshman members of Congress at the time and selected to chair a subcommittee, and was respected by members on both sides of the political aisle for his willingness to listen and work to find common sense solutions to real problems. During his time in Congress, Reichert helped in emergency preparedness, tax reform, expanding trade opportunities for our farmers and small businesses, and giving the police the support they deserve. After retiring from Congress in 2019, Dave Reichert has been instrumental in helping law enforcement across the country to obtain rapid DNA technology, which provides a DNA profile in just 90 minutes. And he's been working on ending human trafficking in Central America and is back to help show Washington there's a way forward to fix what's broken. I had the privilege of meeting Dave Reichert recently and have since become a huge supporter. And today I've invited him to come on the show and talk about his run for governor in Washington State. This is the Heidi St. John podcast. Stick around. I think you're going to be encouraged. So Dave, welcome to the podcast. It's great to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Well, it's an honor. Let's get right into this because Washington State is on fire. And anybody who's lived here for any length of time, I've been here for a long, long time raising my 7 children in Washington State, and we're watching our state literally circling the drain. We got issues with homelessness. We got issues with rising crime. We've got issues with, obviously, inflation. We saw incredible broad overreach by Governor Inslee during the COVID years. And now we have an opportunity to elect change in Washington State, to actually bring hope back. There are a lot of people, Dave, that are moving. They're leaving Washington State because it's no longer a good place for people like me that own businesses here because of the tax rate and everything else. So I've got so many questions that I want to ask you, but really quickly, can you give my audience who's never maybe even seen you in an interview before a little bit of history as to who you are, what you've done already for Washingtonians, and what brought you to the decision to run for governor?
Yeah. I always love that question, trying to wrap a 50-year career in about, 15 seconds. No, I grew up in a small community up in Renton Highlands, oldest of 7 children, and ran away from home when I was a senior in high school. I went into the Air Force Reserves, got off active duty, went into the Sheriff's Office, did 33 years there. I have 2 Valor Awards, the State Attorney General's Award for Courageous Action. I have been named the Sheriff of the Year in 2004 for the National Sheriff's Association. There are about 4,000 sheriffs. I was the lead detective in the Green River serial murder case and helped work with that team and lead that team to a conviction of Ridgway after killing 49, pleading guilty to 49 women murders. And we think he did 65 to 70. I became the first elected sheriff in 30 years in King County, which is the Seattle neighborhood. Before that, it was appointed, so I want to be the first elected Republican governor in 40 years. It kind of matches up, And I was the sheriff during WTO. After being the sheriff and 33-year career in the sheriff's office, I was elected to Congress in the 8th district. I won 7 times in King County, 14 years in Congress on the Emergency Preparedness Committee, Homeland Security for 4 years, and the Ways and Means Committee my last 10 years, chairing 3 committees there. Retiring from Congress in 2019, and then went to Central America, traveling back and forth, working on human trafficking and missing children in Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Costa Rica, and Panama. And then last year, July, after Inslee announced his retirement in May, my wife and I, after a lot of prayer and thought and discussion with our kids, we have 3 kids, 6 grandkids, and 5 great-grandchildren, 1 great-grandchild on the way, so we'll have 6 here in another few weeks. We came to the conclusion that we had a chance to win if we entered this race. And I couldn't stand by and watch, as you said, the state of Washington go down the drain. And that's the way I've sort of viewed it too, is we've been circling the drain, and it's been this ideological approach to solving problems that has got us here, which is not really a problem-solving approach, but it's left-wing ideology being used to shape our society in the way that they see is right for all of us. And what I want to do is apply facts to the solutions to the problems that we're facing. So all of my career, I've been very blessed to have had this experience, and I think it has brought all of us, and me especially, to a place where everything that I've done and been blessed to do in my career is now aligned with the problems that we're facing, and we all know what they are. It's criminal justice, homelessness, the economy, education, just to name the top 4.
Yeah. Well, we're hurting. And I think every Washingtonian feels it. You are really engaged. I mean, your opponent, Bob Ferguson, served as the Attorney General here in Washington State for 12 years. And 8 years before that, he was very busy raising taxes, sitting on his city council. And you're you're locked in the fight of your life, because it seems to me that Republicans are really having a hard time getting the media to help get a message out. It seems to be very one-sided. We're watching the race for governor here where I live in Southwest Washington. It seems to me there's a lot of money being spent to get Bob Ferguson over the finish line. And I've been telling people, listen, this race for governor is probably the most important race in the history of Washington State, because Bob Ferguson, his policies are communist. I mean, he's a Marxist at the very least, but this guy's an authoritarian. And I saw what he did during COVID. I know you saw it too. Tell us a little bit about what it's been like for the race, and then I want to jump into some of these other issues. But what has it been like? How are you being treated kind of out there on the campaign trail by the media? I know you're being outspent, 80 to 1? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, he has definitely got a lot of money. A lot of independent expenditure organizations have come in. The Democratic Governors Association has come in, and I think bought somewhere between $5 to $7 million of TV ads.
Wow.
And he's got $12 million himself. I think we've raised about $6 million. We don't have any independent expenditures so far in our race. I think part of the frustration for me has been that as I traveled this state, and this has been a 24/7 effort for the last year and 5 months, is that people have given up hope in Washington State. And even in meeting with the Republican Governors Association, they were excited about my candidacy, but very hesitant to spend money because, look, it's been 40 years. We are the longest running state without a Republican governor in the history of this country. And so everyone is playing the odds, saying, why should I vote? Why should I give money? This is a lost cause. We have been neck and neck with him the entire length of this campaign. And what I'm feeling right now, there is a movement that is unmeasurable. So this movement is happening. You can try and poll, and the Democrats have, and they poll certain groups of people. But I'll tell you, I was at an event a couple of weeks ago. 800 Pacific Islanders and Asian community members together in the Tacoma Dome, all being fed with information from the Democrat side. No conservative booth, no Republican booth was allowed. No pro-initiative groups were allowed, to present themselves. Only the opposing side of the initiatives that are on the ballot, and you can speak about those later, I'm sure, and only those that really presented the ideological ideas of the left. But I was at a forum, so this forum, Bob Ferguson and I were at least allowed to speak. It was to provide the 800 or so people there with information about our campaigns, about what we saw as important in Washington State. Bob Ferguson started to attack me immediately in this forum. I chose to take the high road until the very end. As he continued to attack me, I apologized to the audience and said, I have to correct the record, so I'm going to have to let you know that your my friend, my opponent, Bob Ferguson, has been untruthful to you. And I proceeded to lay out this lie and that lie and this lie and that lie. And as I started to build, the applause started to build in the room. And when I ended, people continued to applaud. Lori Matsukawa turned to Bob Ferguson, which was not in the program, to allow him to rebut my comments, gave him an additional 1 minute of rebuttal time. Mr. Ferguson chose not to do that. Instead, he said, I have to go, and he left the stage.
Wow.
Yeah. So
wow.
Not only that, the great thing about that event was, as I walked down the stage, I walked out into the people. He left out the back door, and I was surrounded by the people who were attending that event. I had a group of Samoan young men who surrounded me, hugging me, chanting, hoot, hoot, Reichert, hoot, hoot, Reichert. And I'm not doing that chant the justice it deserves. But
well, you're also not Samoan, so.
Yeah, I'm not Samoan, so I don't really have the technique down there or the history or the ethnic background for understanding it. But, man, they were so super excited to be there and support me. And then a young lady who said she was Cambodian, and she had a family of like 30 or 40 members around her from her community. And she said, first words out of her mouth, we are tired of being lied to. Thank you for speaking the truth. Mm-hmm. We usually vote Democrat, and we are not. We are going to be voting for you this November. And the ruckus was so intense that the moderator had to send a team of workers over to our group and ask me to go out in the hallway and take the 200 or 300 people with me because they couldn't hear the speaker. They were so excited. So
wow.
I wanted to share that with your listeners because that is a powerful example of what the truth can do. It's also a very powerful example of what's happening in the state in smaller events, but with the same enthusiasm and the same hunger for honesty, for integrity, for the truth, for facts, for common sense. And I really believe we are going to win this race. But the media, as you said, has not been helpful. They've been undermining me at every way, taking little snippets from events, twisting the words. In fact, the ads that you see are all total lies. They've been taken out of context and twisted to fit their ideological spin,
the narrative,
on me. And the problem is that these lies are they are repeated over and over again, and people begin to believe it the more they hear it. And I'm hoping that people have discernment here and can see through this and understand that they're lies, and their whole campaign is based upon spreading fear and telling lies.
Well, you are bringing, I had the opportunity to MC an event for you in Clark County at the Hilton about a week and a half ago. And I said, and I mean this, and I want my listeners to hear this. This is the first time in many, many, many years that I have felt really good and excited about a gubernatorial candidate here in Washington State. You bring a breadth of experience. You have a lifetime of committed service to the public, and you bring conservative ideas. And as you and I were saying just before we started recording, I think part of the reason why the media, and we see them doing this to Republican candidates all across the nation, the media doesn't want these ideas to get out there because conservative ideas are just better ideas. And as Ben Shapiro would say, facts don't care about your feelings, and you see the other side of the aisle running campaigns that are really based on fear mongering and messing up the facts. I want to talk to you really quickly about homelessness because I've been in this state for a really long time, and Dave, I have never, and I mean it, I have never seen anything like this. I don't understand what's happening. Maybe you can outline sort of where the homeless crisis is coming from and what can be done to fix it.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, I was on a committee to end homelessness when I was the sheriff, all the way up into 2005 when I left to go to Congress with the county executive, with the King County prosecutor, and interested groups within King County. Our goal was to end homelessness, and that was in the early 2005 era. And here we are today, and it's so much worse. And what's happened is it's a combination of lots of things. So first of all, you have Bob Ferguson, who has decided to support the legislative movement to legalize drugs. Mm-hmm. So as we legalize drugs, people have this freedom on the street to use drugs in the open, and the drugs then intensify. It's not just crack cocaine and heroin any longer, which are bad enough, but now it's fentanyl. Now, we have changed the law somewhat in Washington State to allow police officers to approach those people using drugs and giving them the option, do you want treatment or do you want to go to jail? Give me a break. What are you going to choose, right? So the legalization of drugs, supported by my opponent, pushed by my opponent, the defund the police movement, which then reduces the number of cops on the street. You increase the number of drug users, decrease the number of cops, increase the number of drug users. You increase crime because you've got to commit crime to get the money to pay for your drugs. So crime has gone up, and then the other thing that adds to that is the gang involvement. Because this is big money. Now we're talking about gangs that have the opportunity to make a lot of money selling fentanyl to people. And then when you get people hooked on hardcore drugs who have no idea, no clue where they are in the world, they might be standing on a street corner. Now the opportunity presents itself for wrapping them into a human trafficking a venture. And so now we have this huge underworld that's been created by this snowballing effect of legalizing drugs. And then not only that, we have this ideological approach to saying that, well, the way to get people to understand and to come to an understanding that drugs are not good for me is to help them use drugs safely, and then we can right? So they're handing them survival kits in Seattle and other places in the state.
Yeah, don't they get a pipe and they get aluminum foil and they get the whole it's like a drug 101, like a lunch sack only, or sack lunch only. It's full of a drug paraphernalia. It's shocking.
That's a survival kit? No, a survival kit would be a Bible, some food.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right,
water.
Exactly. Yeah, some water, a sandwich. Yeah, it's kind of amazing. I'm curious, and I think a lot of people listening around the country don't understand because we don't teach it in our schools anymore. Right? Our education system is completely on its head. And we're not teaching the history of the country anymore. We're not teaching civics. I had just Judge Dave Larson on my show last week, and we were talking a little bit about this. Explain to us why the governor's seat is so important. And I have to say, Dave, I've been very politically active my entire adult life. But when I saw what Inslee did to his own people,
Yeah.
in COVID, and this just the irrationality, the unconstitutionality of it, the overreach. Tell us a little bit about what governors can do and why this seat is so important, because it's actually a very, very important role to play. And I think people have just not understood what the role of a governor actually is.
Well, I think one of the first things that I want to do is to limit the terms here in Washington. There's no term limit for governor. You can be governor for as long as you want to, essentially crown yourself king in this state.
Yep.
So, or queen. So
or an emperor. He's an emperor. That's why I call him Emperor Inslee.
Right. So you can. What I would do first, my first effort would be. I know it's probably be constitutional, but to limit the term of governor to 2 terms in Washington State. Secondly, in close connection with that, I would limit the executive powers to a time limit, because I've said this before. I think that what our governor did, and some other governors across the state, and even President Trump, they listened to Dr. Fauci, and they began to build their policies on that. And I, and trying to understand, how I might approach a pandemic in the beginning. If I were them, and I were part of that group back in those days, I would have listened to the doctors in the beginning too. But then, as things in fact started to unfold, Governor Inslee did not follow the science. He followed again his ideology, and shut down.
And he doubled down. And our schools were shut down. And so, to your point, now 60% of our kids are failing in math, and 40% in English. And so now we've fallen behind. So I would have the bully pulpit as the governor, and try to move toward an education system that really focuses on those core educational topics that we want our kids to learn. We all talk about STEAM, and the focus should be there. We should be looking at charter schools. We should be looking at any opportunity to provide our children and our parents who have younger children who can't make their own decisions, but have our parents make decisions on what kind of an education, where they want their kids to go to school. Yes, standards set by the state, but parents should have choices. Parents should have control over their kids. They're a gift from God. They don't belong to the state of Washington. Come on. That's right. One of the things that I absolutely, this is when you won me over, and some of my listeners won't know this, but you came to visit me here at the Homeschool Resource Center, and you spent quite a bit of time, a couple of hours at least, kind of touring the center. And one of the questions that you asked me was what you could do as governor to support homeschooling in Washington State. And my answer to you was very simple: leave us alone.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a very, I believe in limited government. I think this was the heart cry of the founding fathers, who'd seen what it was like to live under a tyrannical government. They wanted limited government, and you have that same philosophy. Tell us a little bit about why it's so important that the government's authority be limited, because you're also a huge supporter of parental rights, which we see being attacked from the left every day of the week in Washington.
Yeah, which I just cannot comprehend, really. You see it on TV, and you're listening to these discussions about whether or not transgender males should be allowed to participate in women's sports and use
shocking
bathrooms, right?
Yeah.
It is absolutely shocking, and I'm not the only one to describe our world as upside down right now. I think we all have this strong feeling that something's not right. We feel like it's upside down. How do we turn it right side up? We've got to begin by having, in this state, we've got to elect a conservative, thoughtful, common sense person to the governorship who has the opportunity to use
who knows what a woman is.
Who knows what a woman is, what a man. And I got absolutely nailed by the media for explaining that I'm a man, my wife is a woman. I got hit hard on that one. So just saying, things that all of us believe gets attacked by the news media. So
yeah. Yeah, which is fully in the pocket of the left in this country. I mean, that is why people don't trust the mainstream media anymore, because they've shown that they have an incredible bias, and we've seen it in your race, and I know that you're experiencing it also. You have incredible name ID in King County, and this is really important because a lot of people have said, well, we can't elect a Republican governor. We'll never be able to do it. I disagree. I think we can do it if people who are listening to this would get out and vote, if they would help you financially. I've contributed to your campaign. I know that people around the country can do that. You need to be able to buy ads, to get out there, to counter the lies, and to get in front of the people so that your message is heard, because your message is a message of hope. When I hear you, my heart just soars, because I think, oh my word, a good governor could bring back so many good things to Washington State. How can people help you, Dave, get this message out there so that we get voters to turn out and vote? Because have ballots already dropped?
Yes, in some parts of the state. In fact, some have already mailed their ballots in. I'm getting that word. Yeah, they have.
Yeah. Good. So what's the best way for people to help you right now in the days leading? I mean, certainly vote, right? I mean, in Washington, As soon as you get that ballot, you fill that bad boy out and get it in, take it down to the elections office. That's my preferred method. I don't like to put it in the mail.
Yeah, that's what we do too.
Yeah. So tell us, what can we do? Because, I mean, it's October. Tomorrow's going to be the 16th. It's decision time. 3
weeks to go. Yes, I mean, if you go to reichertforgovernor.com, reichertforgovernor.com, and you can contribute online. You can volunteer. You can pick up a sign, whatever you want to do. Volunteer to doorbell. That's always helpful. But last night I talked about hope. With a group of people, about 500 people up in the Kirkland area.
At the Pursuit, at the church, yes, I love that.
The church, don't give up hope. Anyone who's listening, we all have to have hope. We all have to hang on to faith, and there is hope in this race. You have to have faith, but you have to act on that hope and that faith, and that is, not only do you have to vote, but you need to get your family to vote, your friends, neighbors, and other relatives to vote. This is a movement that you just can't sit at home, fill out your ballot, and say, okay, I've done my part. Mm-hmm. You've got to walk. My sister, for example, will be at the grocery store, and if somebody is complaining about the $500 loaf of bread they're about to buy,
right?
she says, well, you know how you can change that, don't you? And the person will ask, well, how do I do that? She goes, well, vote for Dave Reichert for governor. That's the beginning. And it's the beginning because it also, it will be historic for Washington State, for sure. But it also will be historic, as you alluded to earlier, across this nation. It will send, having been the longest state without a Republican governor, it is going to send a strong message to the rest of the nation.
Yes.
So your one vote, your one voice needs to be like the stone thrown into the pond and that ripple effect. That's what you need to do.
I agree. And Dave, we're praying for you. You know, I am a woman of faith. I know that you are a man of great faith as well, as your family is. And I know, people get discouraged and they just think, boy, it's too big. The odds are stacked against us. And, these guys are outspending us. What'd you say, 80-1? But God is listening to us. And we are praying every day here at this ministry at 8 a.m. every day and at 10 a.m. at the Homeschool Resource Center for our elections and for people to get out and vote. And I think you've got a real shot at this thing to bring hope again back to Washington State. And it's just an honor to support you and watch what God's doing as you travel the great state of Washington. We don't want to give up on Washington State.
No, we don't.
Because I think, your family's here, right? My family's here. And the last thing you're going to do is run. You're not going to hightail and run because you're no coward and you know what a woman is. And I think that's all we need to know right there. Dave Reichert actually knows what a woman is. You could be on the Supreme Court, man. That woman, Ketanji Brown Jackson, she doesn't know. She's confused, Dave. We need less confused people and more people of principle and common sense. and you fit the bill. Dave Reichert, just been a real pleasure and an honor to have you. And we're going to be praying for you and doing everything we can. You're going to be down here, by the way, and I want people to know that if they want to meet you, you're going to be right here at the Homeschool Resource Center on the 21st for an event that we are calling Win Washington. Win Washington. We're looking forward to hearing. People want to meet you and ask you questions and get their picture with the future governor of Washington State. That's the time to do it. I keep slipping up and calling you Governor Reichert. I think it has such a great ring to it.
Prophetic.
It's prophetic. I'm gonna believe into it, and it's just you are a statewide treasure and a national treasure for sure. And I wish you the best, and we're praying for you. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Hey, thank you, Heidi. Thanks for having me.
If you guys want more information on the future governor of Washington State, you can go to my show notes today. I'm going to link back to all the ways that you can help him, including a video from the event that Dave Reichert was talking about at the Tacoma Dome. You guys, we're going to link back to those things. Share this podcast with your friends so they can hear Dave Reichert for themselves. And guys, it doesn't matter where you are in the country. You can help Washington State begin again to see a resurgence of patriotism, of common sense, start getting the homeless crisis dealt with. For goodness sake, you guys, we got so many issues. We need good people in leadership. And it's an SOS going out from the Heidi St. John podcast. So get behind this guy. Vote, 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 vote like your life depends on it. And we're going to continue to pray for Dave Reichert and for his campaign. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'll see you right back here again at the intersection of faith and culture.